this episode of Biking with Panda, we'll investigate the truck camper I rebuilt, lived, and traveled in over the summer and winter, detailing some enhancements and problems faced along the way. It's like negative 3 degrees outside, low of negative 13 today, and I have no idea where I'm going next. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Thunder Bay. 99% sure. I drove to BC in July to find a place to live, and then drove back to Ontario in October to pack my stuff in a trailer and drive it back to BC. Yep, I drove across Canada 3 times in less than half a year, which is difficult, but it was the cheapest way I could think of. And I planned on being back in BC sooner, but delays meant I'd be traveling in winter weather. I at least had my avalanche ice tires installed and headed out into the unknown with my audiobooks. You can see this is the bed that I slept in last night. The cat slept right about here. It's keeping it livable in here. I swear, I would be shivering my ass off without this thing. I thought of turning it off in the middle of the night, but it was better to just leave it running. Didn't get too hot. I made it back by Christmas and promptly neglected the camper for several weeks. I had the batteries replaced 3 times now, but the solar array seems to be in working order despite almost non-existent sunlight. When the seasons changed, I built some hinge-style mounts for the panels that allowed tilting them toward the sun, which greatly increased their output. In North Vancouver's rainy weather, moisture was forming near my roof vent, so I used Flex Seal spray to try and block it. But I don't think it worked, and in fact it probably made it worse. The stuff looks like it cracked with exposure to the elements. And the odd thing about this water damage is that there's no roof seam or visible holes anywhere near the area. I wondered if it may be condensation forming inside, but I haven't pulled it apart yet to check what's going on. I must admit though, I didn't follow Camco's install instructions because they just didn't make sense. On the other hand, maybe it's my do-it-yourself mounts that could be the reason. I became paranoid leaving my home unattended while riding my bike around, so I installed a USB security camera capable of night vision connected to a Raspberry Pi that also serves as my Wi-Fi repeater. Sends me custom email alerts whenever motion is detected, like here in Squamish when a fellow van life nomad plowed his bike rack into my backside. That poor road bike. It's almost like my truck wasn't meant for towing things because it has such short and stubby mirrors that show me absolutely nothing that's going on. To that end, I gorilla taped a backup camera because that helped me connect the trailer easily. The original exterior lighting used 50 watts and did nothing, so I used some advanced engineering skills to wire up a couple 10-watt flood LEDs from Amazon. They're not motion activated, and I'm not sure how the right one gets so much more filthy than the left. I didn't clean either before filming, but I need to install a switch in the truck cab to turn the light on while reversing in the dark. The LEDs even came with a state-of-the-art mounting system that will hold them together even in hurricane-level crosswinds. Everyone that I've demonstrated their power for is left in awe and permanently blinded. I installed a doorknob that's apparently indoors only, so it corroded in the rain and got stuck. The door's window was a mess with panels loose and air gaps all around. I initially used Gorilla Glue to hold the loose panels in place, and it's worked very well, even if it's not the prettiest of solutions. For the changing weather, I added very thick weather stripping foam to the edges of each window pane, which did block most air, but they're single pane glass and that causes massive loss. The taillights stopped working somewhere in Squamish, or maybe they never worked at all, but a faulty ground connection was all that needed to be fixed. Every other seam I've repaired seems to be holding up. though I've not pulled the walls off inside to be sure. After months of struggling with jugs of water, I finally bought a 12-volt RV water pump and all of the parts to run a water line all the way around my camper to the sink on the other side, to which you'll see I've added alignment screws to keep the bowl centered. It's tricky to make sure everything fits, but the wastewater drops directly into a 5-gallon bucket that I would then flush down a toilet whenever I could. Once upon a time, my sink looked like this. After below freezing weather, the nozzle exploded and now looks like this. I found a 24-inch LCD that runs on 14-volt DC power and mounted it on a 2x4 with a swing arm so it's useful from the work area or the bedroom. And my solar panels output more power than the original 30-amp controller provided, so I upgraded to a 50-amp model for about $180. To get accurate power draw information, I connect everything through an ammeter shunt. It's unidirectional and only shows input or output power, but you can run 2 meters from a single shunt to get the full picture. I also added a stinger relay to link it to my truck so it charges while running. This connects to an ADA fuse in my driver's side fuse box. If I'm parked somewhere that it's allowed, I can plug this extension cord into shore power to charge my batteries and run a 300-watt parabolic heater. 300 watt isn't enough for the extreme cold, but it was the largest model I could find that was still small enough to run from my 700-watt propane generator. And for about $400, I found this LPG-only generator at Home Depot in North Vancouver. It came with a short adapter hose to connect it to a 20-pound propane tank, which gave it about 120 hours of runtime at a 30% load. Most generators output more than 700 watts, and so some might scoff. But my solar array is only rated for a maximum of 670 watts, and it was rare to need that much. However, it's not without its downsides. There is no direct DC output to be found on the unit without hacking. This makes it inefficient for battery charging, to say the least, but I chose this unit because it means I don't have to carry a gas can, though you do have to do regular oil changes if you want it to keep working, something my solar array doesn't require. The low sun angle, tall trees, and opaque mountains made it difficult to survive purely on solar power in the Pacific Northwest. This vacuum was a lifesaver, and it even handles water, but don't expect it to pick up any bowling balls. In Canada, a bug zapper is less useful because mosquitoes don't appreciate them. Better off to spend your money on a sweet Bluetooth speaker system, man. And to keep it from flying around, I screwed everything into the wall like a caveman. When someone let me use their home Wi-Fi, or at a Walmart, my directional Yagi Wi-Fi antenna helped me reach more than 30 megabit, which was very helpful for video uploads on the road. The marine grade switch panel is great, but I covered the bright blue light with some black tape because I like to sleep at night. The camper's mounting eyelets always made me nervous, but they're solid and not going anywhere. My tie-downs, however, needed some abrasion protection, so I repurposed a 26-inch bike tire. The most irritating part is how the strap covers the gas cap, making me dread the inevitable fuel ups. And I goofed by putting the ratchet on the opposite side, forcing me to walk around every time. The only other thing I can remember to tell you is that butane stoves don't work in cold weather. That is all. Also, if you have one of these vans, you should totally put a security camera on the back because this happened this morning. Until next time, you know what to do. Go ride.